Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be guiding you through our CLIQS 1D Pro image database software, which allows you to bring all of your lanes from all of your gels into one large database and then compare lanes across different gels as if they were all performed on one large gel, accounting for any distortions which may have occurred within those different gels.
When you first open our CLIQS 1D Pro software, you're greeted with this screen, where the software invites you to start creating your database using the lane and band information that you've identified in your images from our CLIQS 1D software. So it's important to note that before you can start using CLIQS 1D Pro, you need to have analysed a few of your gel or blot images within our CLIQS 1D software. And that's where the information regarding the lanes and the bands will be defined before it's brought into CLIQS 1D Pro. So on the left-hand side, we have our Manage Database tools, and at the moment only two of them are available to me because I don't have any database open. I've got the option to create a new database or open an existing database. So I'm going to go ahead and left-click Create New Database, give it a name, and then click Save. And as you can see, this has automatically changed our current database to the new database that we've created. And you can see that this option within our Manage Databases toolset has become available, where I can edit the lane fields within the database. I'll run through that in a second. But first, I'm going to add some analyzed gel or blot data to the database so I can show you so we've got something to work with. So if I just left click here and come through, and you'll see that I've got two 1D XML files here. Now, a 1D XML file is what the data file is generated from CLIQS. And if I come along and just show you all the files within this folder, you can see that this contains the analyzed data from this image, and then this 1D XML file contains the analyzed data from this image. When you're working in CLIQS 1D and doing your analysis, it autosaves as you move through the workflow of your analysis. And it autosaves that 1D XML file, that project file, in the same folder as your image. So if you're struggling trying to find your 1D XML files in CLIQS, if you need to revisit your analysis, or struggling to find them to import them into CLIQS 1D Pro, this is where they're saved. It's the same location as the actual image itself. So what I'm going to do is hold Control and left click both of these 1D XML files and then click Open, and you can see I've imported them into my database here. And if I left click on the down arrow, I can expand these gels into the different lanes that we've got within the gels that were identified using CLIQS. And as you can see, the name of the gel is retained when you bring it into the database. So if you're using particular file naming formats, including dates or experimental conditions, that's all retained when you bring it in to start building your database. So as I open these up, you can see that I've got access to the lanes. And if I left click on the lanes from the gel, you can see that within the main window, I get access to the full profile of that lane as discovered and analyzed within CLIQS. So I've got my peaks, and you can see this purple line here denotes the background that has been subtracted from my peaks, from my experiment to give me my measured values. You can see here below we've got a horizontal slice of the lane itself from the image. And right at the bottom here, we've got all of the quantifiable data that has been pulled from your analysis within CLIQS. That has also been pulled into the database as well. And if I hold Control and left click on different lanes, I can start stacking lanes on top of each other within the main window. And I can see that I've got different tabs at the bottom, so I can access all of the raw data that was defined in CLIQS. So you can start comparing your lanes that way, just within this main window on their profile alone. So we have got a few different display options within this window, and they're just shown at the bottom left of the window here. So we can turn on or off lane names over the image. So this section here, just above the horizontal slice of the lane image. We can turn on or off the band display on the horizontal slice of the lane. We can show peaks, we can turn that on or off. We can show the molecular size, which shows the molecular size of the band rather than the band number, rather than 9 or 10. If I had performed a molecular weight calculation using a ladder built into my experiment, which I didn't on this experiment, I could show molecular weight on these peaks instead of just numbers. And I can also click to remove the background. And as you can see, that just removes the display of the background that has already been removed within CLIQS. It's just not showing you the background that was removed. It's important to note that all of this information is defined in CLIQS, not CLIQS 1D Pro. So you're not changing your analysis at all. We're just viewing exactly what you've done in CLIQS. So this background subtraction is exactly the same as was performed in CLIQS. If I want to kind of include or remove different lanes, individual lanes from my database, if I just right click on the name of the lane here, you can see I've got some options to rename my gel, to delete the selected lanes, to delete all the gel lanes, effectively delete this gel from the database and remove it. I've also got the ability to invert the image, and I can do that on a lane basis, or I can invert all of the lanes within that gel. Now, it's unlikely that you'll need to do this within 1D Pro itself, because if you did need to invert your image for any reason, you would have performed that within CLIQS before you did your analysis to get your lanes and your bands out and your appropriate intensity measurements and things like that. However, the option is still there if for some reason you do need to change it within the 1D Pro side of the software. Now, if I come to the top here and click on lane fields, this allows me to add and append additional information to the lanes within the database. And I'll show you an example of that here. So if I find one of my lanes, if I click one of my lanes here and go and edit lane fields in database, so this is the other database tool that I didn't touch on before, it allows me to add new fields that are kind of freeform into my database to contain information that relate to the lanes in the database. So I can add, for example, a date column. There you go. Date of experiment, so just call it date of experiment and then add that there. And if I just close this down, I've got the ability to add a date. So, you know, this date might relate to one particular protein collection date, one experimental date, whatever it may be. We've got the option to append that information into the database. We can also add kind of more general comments, for example, where I can just freeform type any comments that I want to link to that lane within the database. And these are just to inform the user to add more information alongside the lanes within the database. So this is the first step in building up our database. It's including deciding which lanes we want to include, and if we want to remove any lanes. For example, if we ran the same molecular weight ladder on all of our gels, but we don't feel it necessary to include every molecular weight ladder with all of our gels because they're all run on the same one, you can right click and then just delete the selected lanes. So you can delete those from the database. So you could have essentially just one ladder or two ladders or three ladders within your entire database rather than repeating sections. Or if you brought in a gel that had some blank lanes and it was unnecessary to include blank lanes within the database, you could remove them that way as well. So these are all the steps that you need to start importing your data into your database and start building up your database before you start doing things like comparing different lanes across your database and finding matching lanes and clustering bands and all that kind of stuff that I'm going to move on to later in the tutorial series. Thanks for listening. If you'd be interested in a free trial of CLIQS 1D Pro to run through its databasing features for yourself with your own data, please check out the links in the description below.